Hello, my name is Mrs. Macro and I run the CTEC Diploma Level 3 Art and Design course at Saffron Walden County High School. Other staff that also teach on this course is Miss Davis and Mr. Irons. This video is for those studying the CTEC double. Remember that in addition to you studying the CTEC single course as well. So it's equivalent to the 2 A levels, which is why it's a double. Please continue to look through the PowerPoint for information about the course structure, but also the holiday work for the first unit that you will study on the double course. Hopefully we've already met. If you've got any queries, you can contact me on email over the holiday period on nmacro@switches.net. So as I said, this is the recording for the CTEC Level 3 Diploma, which is a double, and it's equivalent to 2 A levels. There is no exam with this qualification. It is purely coursework. There is an externally set assignment which is called Art in Context, and you can find out more about that on the other PowerPoint in relation to the single. You study 3 units on the double course and you will study 3 units on the single course, and they are timetabled separately for each of the different projects. Normally that means for you that 2 projects will run at the same time with different tutors. The units in the double course include drawing, which is the first project that you work on, a photography unit and a ceramics unit. We encourage you to select a theme within your drawing unit that you can run through into your ceramics. So think really carefully about the theme that you want to choose for your first project. The drawing unit starts with artist research. So you will need to select a theme and then start researching some artists that can be used and referenced to inspire your own work and ideas for the projects that you're going to work on in September. So the following slides will get you thinking about the types of things that you may like to work in and the types of artists that you may choose to research. This slide has a list of some historical artists that use drawing as an art form. You could start by looking at some of the examples of work by these artists to see the type of work that you like. Some artists work within a particular theme, so it might be within portraiture or landscape, and that might help you start to decide the theme that you would like to work within yourself. On this slide, there is a list of contemporary artists that use drawing as an art form that you could use as a starting point for research. Remember, you don't have to research just the artists that are on this list. You feel free to find some of your own artists, but do try to aim to have a list of historical and contemporary as a starting point. While you're researching on your phone or your computer, just start to record the information of artists that you're looking at. So start on a chart similar to the one that's shown on this slide. So you can write down the artist's name, what subject matter and theme, and just a list of websites. You could even create a Word document that you save that information. So you've got a bank of lots of different artists, of the ones that you're looking at, that you actually like, that you might like to come back and return to. And then once you've found several that you like, there might be a bit of a theme within those artists that you start to see. So maybe a lot of them that you're kind of drawn to are producing work on the theme of portraiture or landscape, because then your next step is that you need to narrow down that list to a list of 3 artists that you would like to research to inform your own work and ideas. So as explained, you need to narrow down the list of a variety of different artists to just 3. Aim to make sure that they are all working within a theme. It will help you later in the project. So obviously, if you have a real interest in portraiture, try to choose artists that are working on the theme of portraiture or have produced portraits. The same with landscape and built environment. Be careful that the artists that you are referencing and that you have examples of in the research, you are referencing their drawing. Lots of artists produce paintings, but it's really important that you are focusing on the drawing element of their work. So hopefully you've then decided on 3 particular artists that work within a certain genre, a certain theme that you would then like to produce a critical study on, and how to structure that critical study. So you need to gather some information on the artist and then be able to kind of try to put that under headings and sections so that we're thinking about artists within certain themes and context. So you need just some background information on the artist. That should be quite easy to find. But then once you start to gather information on the artist and by looking at their work, you need to discuss the content and have a heading for that. So that makes it really clear that you're thinking about the content of the artist's work. That is the subject and theme. So do they work with portraiture or landscape? And what do you notice? What type of landscapes? Are they of the built environment? Are they of kind of city scenes? Are they realistic, where they focus on lots of kind of perspective drawings? And then think about how they present that work. Is it because they do drawings and it's in a sketchbook, or do they do a drawing for a final piece? The next category to consider is the form. So that's the approach of the drawing style. What type of marks do they use? Do they work from primary or secondary? So do they work from direct observation, having it in front of them, for example, if it's a portrait, or do they take photos and work from those photos? How do they use the picture surface? How do they compose their drawing within the paper or whatever surface it is they're drawing on? How do they compose things within there? What does the composition look like? How are things arranged? The next section is process. So what do you notice about how they use media techniques and processes? So first of all, what media do they use? But then how do they apply that media? Do they produce highly detailed work using tonal pencils? Do they use a range of tonal pencils, i.e. 6B, 4B, 3B? Do they use biro? Are they using biro because they're trying to show different weights of line by the pressure that they're applying? What can you observe? What can you see? You may not be able to find out this information through research. It may be through your observation and your own thoughts about how you think they've produced the piece of work or a drawing. The final section is the mood. So what and how are they communicating what they want to communicate? What are the distinct characteristics? Does it create a mood? Is it things like it gives feelings and emotions, okay, because of the image that you're looking at? What do you think about it as well? Give some personal comment. Obviously, for the research element, you will need to keep a bibliography. There's more on that to come. A bibliography is websites where you're sourcing this information. So remember, where you're gathering any of this information, to jot down the website or the book that you're using. So at this point, obviously, you've gathered your 3 artists, you've written some information about them. Now you need to start thinking about collating that and presenting that. Now on some following slides, we have some examples that we'd like you to look at. But this is kind of a list of what we'd expect to see on that critical study. Produce an A3 page, or if you like working on a larger scale, you could do 2 A3 pages on each of the 3 artists. Okay, so it could be either 1 A3 page on each artist or a double page spread. You don't necessarily have to buy a sketchbook in order to do that. You can if you want to, or you could buy that when you start in September. If that's the case, then present your work on A3 white paper or black paper that can be added to your sketchbook. So what we'd expect to see within that critical study is the written information that was discussed in the last slide in your own words, that you then have an analysis on one particular drawing for each artist. There's a slide on the next page to help you with that. We'd expect to see images, at least 3 pieces of work by each artist, labelled with the title, the medium and the date if it's known. Providing at least 3 images gives us an idea of the breadth and the range of work that the artist produces. A bibliography, which is the website or any books that have been used. It's really important to source your research. And like I said, it's all presented on paper, ready to be added to your sketchbook. On the following slides, we have some examples of some critical studies that have been produced by students previously. So you can see this has been laid out on white paper with a really strong bold title. What's important is what's been written. Now I know you can't see the content, but this is just to give you a flavour of how you could actually choose to present your work. You can produce a little copy, a little pastiche of the artist's work to accompany. We will go into more depth of each artist when you return in September and produce more sustained, larger scale studies to accompany your unit. You can see with this example that it goes over a double page spread. As I said to you before, it could be that you produce a critical study on one A3 sheet, or it can go across a double page as this example shows here, where all the information is on the left hand side and then the bibliography and a study of the artist's work with an analysis on that piece of work appears on the right hand side. Don't deliberately scrunch up your work if you feel that you need a little bit more space. It's fine to do it as double page. It's a real personal choice. With these examples, you can see that this individual has decided to present the critical study on individual A3 pages as opposed to a double page spread, and it seems to work really effectively for them. Notice that this example, they've typed the written element. On the previous ones it was handwritten. We don't mind as long as it's legible. It can be typed or handwritten. As long as it is easy to read, then we don't mind it. I suppose it depends on what works for you and obviously how it kind of works for the artist as well, and how it works if it's aesthetically pleasing and it complements the work that you're looking at. Notice the arrangement, lots of examples of artists' work, so we get a real idea about what the artist is about and the type of work they produce. Think about the surfaces, obviously because these are drawings that are black and white and they're not colour, it works to have kind of white background, but notice the Harry Townsend is on the brown paper to give an aged kind of feel, because it was an war artist who produced lots of drawings of soldiers, so it kind of just it works for that artist. So really think about how you want to present your work to further communicate your understanding of the artist. As mentioned before, it's important as part of the critical study that you do an analysis, an in-depth kind of study of an artist's work to show your own kind of understanding of the purpose of the drawing and what you can observe about that piece of work. Make sure you have an example of that image on your critical study, and perhaps it might be the pastiche, a copy of that drawing that you're doing that you're then going to analyse. Just remember it's all about what you're noticing and what you can see about it, but there's some bullet points here just to help direct that analysis, so it gets you thinking about what you can discuss about the piece of work, you know, compositionally, how things are composed, what you notice about the subject matter and the theme and how they might use media. So this slide appeared earlier in the PowerPoint as the criteria for the critical study, as bullet points, just so you can see exactly what the expectations are. But just notice I've put, so if you've got any queries about any of the content of this PowerPoint or the criteria, then our emails can be seen below at nmacro@switches.net, mdavis@switches.net, or jirons@switches.net. I suggest if you have any questions, if it's over the summer holidays, obviously we won't be looking at those as frequently, so perhaps if you address all of us, and then hopefully one of us may be around and not on holiday to be able to respond to any of your queries. But in the best case scenario, aim to start this work before we break up for the summer holidays, because then if you have got any queries that you would like to present to us, then obviously you'll get a more timely response. Good luck with this holiday work, We hope you're going to enjoy this unit and make some really good choices about your artists that are going to inspire you for the rest of this project. Have a great holiday, and we look forward to seeing you in September.